happens if you invest it monthly? And then we can compare all four of the examples that we looked at. So again, because interest is being compounded, I can start with the compound interest formula. And let's look at the interest rate and the number of compounding periods. So those are the two pieces of information that we need to determine before we actually find the compound interest amount. Okay, so interest is 6% per year, but it's being compounded on a monthly basis. So it's being compounded 12 times a year. So what that means is at the end of every month I get 0.005 in interest. Okay, or in other words, 0.5% in interest. Okay, the number of compounding periods. You're getting interest at the end of every month, so that's 12 times a year. And you're getting that for 4 years. So in total, you're going to get interest 48 times at the end of every month for 4 years. So let's substitute in the information we know. And so this is 1 plus I, so 1.005 to the exponent 48. And again, you'll notice that the growth ratio is a little bit smaller compared to the previous one, but then the exponent is higher because you have more compounding periods. 1.005 to the exponent 48. And you get A equals $2,922 and about 13 cents. Now, let's take a look at how much interest is earned. First of all, you'll notice that if I compare all four of the examples that we had earlier, so let's look at the first two. We had $603 in interest, then we got $613 in interest, and now let's look at these ones. The amount of interest you earned is the amount you have in the account now, minus the amount you initially put into the account, since all that extra money came from interest. So that would be about $618.67. And I equals the amount of money you have now minus the amount of money you invested initially. And so that's $622.13. So, which account gives you more interest and which compounding period gives you more interest? So, if you compare them, if interest is compounded annually, you get $603 in interest. If it's compounded semi-annually, you get a little bit more. If it's compounded quarterly, you get a little bit more than that. And if it's compounded monthly, you get even more than that. So what that tells me is that the one that actually ends up earning more in interest is compounded monthly. So what does that mean? The more often interest is compounded, the more in interest you earn over time. And the reason for that is because you are actually earning more interest on interest. So ideally what you want is for your account to earn interest more frequently. And so the more frequently interest is compounded, the more in interest you earn over time. Okay, the more interest on interest you earn, and the more interest you earn over time. Now, that's one of the things I wanted you to notice. And so if we just compare the kinds of interest that you might get, simple interest versus compound interest. So just a quick little comparison of the interests. You looked at simple interest in lesson 1, and we looked at compound interest in lesson 2. First of all, simple interest, it's great, but you don't earn very much in interest over time because the only interest you earn is on the principal amount. Whereas in compound interest, you have interest earned on the principal amount and the accumulated interest that you have over time as well. So this is more of an exponential growth. You earn more money over time. Okay, the formulas for simple interest are I equals PRT. So you'll notice that in simple interest, the first thing you calculate is how much interest you earn. Whereas in compound interest, the formula is slightly different. Actually, it's very different. And you'll notice that it's an exponential function. And you'll notice that the first thing you end up solving for is the accumulated amount. If you wanted to figure out how much interest you earned, you would actually have to find a difference between the amount you invested and the amount that you earned over time. Okay, so the accumulated amount minus the principal amount. Okay, so there's the differences between the formulas. You have a linear relation in simple interest. You have an exponential relation in compound interest. In simple interest, you can only earn interest on an annual basis, whereas in compound interest, the compounding periods may vary. So you can earn interest semi-annually, weekly. You can earn interest twice a year, 3 times a year, 4 times a year, however many times a year you want. Compound interest can adapt to how frequently you earn your interest.